Hey guys, so in this video we are going to finish this thing off and make it look good. That's my goal here. So the first thing that I'm going to do from an organizational standpoint is I'm just going to move these graphs that we created last time um, out of the way a little bit. And it's cool having each of these things open individually, but for me, I like having everything at the end of the table. So I'm just going to show you how to reorganize that if you wanted to. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to select all these columns, and I am going to go to, I think it's in data, yep, outline. It might be in a different spot on your PC, but essentially I'm ungrouping everything. And when I do that, you'll notice that that group thing disappears. And then what I have to do is I'm going to select all these columns again, right click, and I'm going to unhide them so that I can see all of my columns. I'm just going to remove all this stuff at the top here. And I'm going to order it. So I want all the scores. I'm pretty much going to order all the scores to go next to each other. All I'm doing is I'm clicking. I'm waiting for the crosshairs to show up on my table, and I'm going to drag the column over. And drag the column over. And drag the column over. And now what this has done is all my scores are next to each other. And then after that, all the individual test results are next to each other. And now I'm just going to regroup things. So I'm going to select column L, which is my first actual test measure. Hold down Shift and click on AC. I've selected all those. Now I'm going to go to Outline and go to Group. Now there's just one button, which is this one here, that will, if you click here or here, doesn't matter, it'll group or ungroup the entire set. And you can also use the ones and the twos here. So good. So we've done that. Now we have all of our scores organized. Now the next part is let's kind of make these graphs look different because we need to figure out where they're going to fit. My vision is having the graphs fit up here in this area, and this page could be just a one-page printable report, if you will. And then this stuff over here is more like, okay, maybe we need some deeper analysis. And you could also print this off too in sections, but my goal is to have just a printable page. So what I'm first going to do is I'm just going to manipulate one of these graphs and then apply the formatting to all of them, and so that they all look the way that I want them to. The first thing is that we know that these are scores, so I'm just going to remove that. I'm going to type in overall. Asking me the title, it's just all in caps. I don't need this, and I don't need this. I know the forwards, defensemen, and goalies, and I will have a key for that somewhere, because it's not really, if I have the name under each one of these graphs, it takes up space, and I don't want to take up that much space. So actually I'm going to do is I'm going to format this data series. I want them closer together, and I want them wider. So what I'm going to do here, maybe I'll go 50, and I'll go -10. That doesn't actually do anything, but maybe it'll be 30. Make them even thicker. And the last thing I'm going to do is if you notice here, there's a box inside a box. The outside box is the box of everything that's inside the graph. And this little box is a box for the chart, essentially. So it doesn't include the title and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this take up the entire width of the box and the entire length down of the box. And I'll keep that as is. And I'll know that I'm going to do that for all of these things. And the next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this in a little bit of a light gray color maybe. And that way, so what my vision is, just so you know, is, all right, I just backed out of this a little bit so I could see more, is I'll have the scores kind of going side by side up here, which means that they have to be smaller than this one is right now, but we can work through that. So I'm just going to go through each of these. I'm going to call this speed. I'm going to call this one strength. And This is screen. And I'm not sure that, I'll get to it in a second. And I'll call this one power. And this one we'll call con, because I'm not sure that conditioning will take up, it might get cut off if we organize these in this area, because we're going to have to make them smaller, or at least make this one smaller. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this. Let's say that I'm happy with the way that this graph looks. I'm going to save it as a template, and you'll see I have a bunch of like random kind of charts and stuff saved, and I'm going to call this I don't know, fitness testing scores. So I saved that, and now if I go to one of these other charts here and I right click, I click on it, right click. If I go to change chart type, there's something somewhere on your PC or Mac that has a templates area. I'm going to go to my templates. See, I have a bunch of like stuff in here. It's a little bit, I think I called it fitness testing charts. If I type in F, it should bring me to the Fs. Oh, there it is, fitness testing score. And I'll click OK. Now you notice it looks exactly the same as this one. The size might be a little bit different, but all the features were carried over. So I'm just going to do that for all of these. So I'm going to right click, change this chart type, go to the templates and go F, fitness testing scores. And we've done this already. All I've done is saved a template and I'm just applying it to all these different charts. So I'm changing the chart type, going to the templates, F, fitness testing scores, right click, change series chart type, templates, F, to my fitness testing scores. And now I'm going to make all these things the same size. I don't know what's going to fit, and I want them to be in the same order of these categories here too. So let's first think about the size. I don't know. I mean, this is way too big if I want it to fit above here. So I'm just going to copy all these, or select all those. I held down Control and selected each one. Go to Shape Format. And over here, this is where I can say how tall I want it to be or how wide I want it to be. So if I start from 0, they're all going to be like that. And I can kind of keep on incrementing up until it looks appropriate. That looks appropriate for that space. Now the distance, let's start from 0. And maybe that will work for now. And we can always change it. Now one thing, this is actually a cool feature that we'll learn about now. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. You see how so we have a couple options here. Look, see how the numbers are stacked on top of each other now? Well, we have a couple things we can do. We can decrease the font size. I don't want to do that. Or we can play with the feature for the data labels. And we do that by clicking on the data labels in a chart. Now that I think about this, I don't know if it applies for a template, but we probably could have done this first after investigating a little bit more and then applying it to all the charts. But anyways, I'm going to go to Format Data Labels. And the important thing here is not in this area, it's in this area, which is the size and alignment. In the alignment, there it is, wrap text and shape. So what this is doing is it's wrapping the text in the shape, and what you can do is you can increase the size of the box. That gets really tedious and annoying, and if you just uncheck this, then it's not wrapping the text inside the data label inside that box, it just lets it go. So what I'm doing is I'm just selecting each of the data labels, going to this area in the chart and not wrapping the text inside the shape. So I'm clicking on the data labels, going here, not wrapping text. I'm just going to do that for all of them. Another option would be to turn the text vertical, but that's again not a great option in my opinion for this. So now we have all of our tests. It goes overall, just so I know the order. It goes overall, then power, then strength, conditioning, speed. Power. I'm just moving stuff around. Drag this over. Strength, conditioning, speed, screen. So even this is a little bit tight, and we might play with the column widths and stuff like that to to get it to look the way that we want. And I'm just doing this for now. I know that I'm going to change this, but at least we can kind of get a sense for what it will look like. Okay, next step. What do I want to do here? And again, this is a personal thing. It's about the design and how you want to see things. Okay. So now I think I might want some more rows in here. I have a thought. And my thought here is normally people put averages on the bottom. I'm thinking that I want to put them up top. And there's a reason for that. It's so that I can quickly, because if I freeze panes the right way, I can do things in a kind of a cool way where the averages are always showing, which might be important when I'm looking at individual athletes. So I'm just going to add a couple. I'm adding a couple rows here just that I can play around with. Maybe there's one more, I don't know. And now this gives me space to put averages in if I want to. And what I might do now is just reorganize this. Oh, this is actually an important thing. So, I mean, it's okay that it's doing that now. I won't worry about it. But the reason why, this is a good teaching point, I guess. Let me undo this. You see how the screening opens up? I'm going to go back. If I right-click and format the chart area here, one of the properties in it is that it's moving and sizing with cells. So I'm opening up all these cells and the chart is responding to it. If I say don't move or size with the cells and I open this up, now it stays where it is and the size stays the way it is. For now, I'm just going to keep it like this, and I'll figure out what to do with all these charts in a little bit. But I'm going to open this up and make this a little bit nicer. Like, make it actually look good and maybe organize it a little bit differently since we changed some things here. So what I'm going to do is, this is a whole merged thing. I'm going to unmerge it. And now I'm going to just go over through all the scores, highlight all those, and merge in center. Right above the scores in row 14. And I'm going to say scores. And let me actually remove the color from here so that I can see what's going on. It's no fill. Now I'm going to select all the stuff in the power category, merge in center, and say power. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the strength category and say strength. Do the same thing for the conditioning category, or all the variables in the conditioning category, say conditioning. And here's all my speed. Oops. I don't know what I just did there. Do this, merge in center, speed. And now let's do this. This is the screen. Merge screen. Okay. Now that we've done this, we can make it look nice if we want. That'd be cool. So let's make this a little bit thicker. I don't know. Let's go 25. And what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to use some decent real estate here to make this look nice at the top. So I might go through a couple things and play around with a couple things, but this is the process that you should probably go through too to make sure that it looks right for you. Okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to format this and I'm going to make it don't move or size. Oh, whoops, I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to unclose this. Or close that, I guess. Go to format, and I'm gonna don't move or size this with cells so that it stays there, because if I'm using this real estate to the right, I might as well, if I have to expand this and look at all this stuff, I might as well make it look cool up here. And I'm thinking of something to do so to make it look cool. All right, I'm gonna make all these bold, move them up in the middle of the vertically. And it's okay if they're centered that way also, horizontally. And now I'm just going to give a background color and a text to it. It doesn't really make sense in the way that I have it, so maybe I have this is a light gray and a black. Oh, well, that didn't work for those. Black, all right, maybe not. It's fine, close enough. I'll make them all the same color. And then I'll make this a darker gray and black. And this is just so that you can see the different categories side by side. So lighter gray, black. This is like a darker gray. Yeah, it's not that much darker. It's just so that you can see the categories segregated out from one another. Is the way that I like to do things, at least. All right, so now that looks pretty good, I think. Looks okay. And what I'm going to throw in here is the averages, and that'll play nicely because normally we'd have the averages all along the bottom. Now we're just going to have them all along the top, and you can still see the scores with the averages. So how many averages do we have? 1, 2. I'm going to need at least 3. So we got the forwards, defensemen, and goalies. And what we can do here is we can be strategic by, let's make the forwards some sort of red, but let's make it even lighter than that. More fill colors. A nice little light like pink thing. The defenders or the defensemen are gray. This is coinciding with the colors in the chart. The goalies are some sort of blue, but let's make that lighter blue. It's still too dark, but I'll play around with that in a minute or so. And now we can start calculating averages of the data that's in here. I'm assuming that's what we're going to want here. So I'm going to do equals average ifs. And this isn't going to make sense right now, but if I take an average of the position, this is just setting it up for success. So I'm taking the average of the position. I should name my table. It's called table 4. Let's actually do that first. So I'm clicking inside the table, table design. You can see it's called table 4. I'm going to call it TBL underscore team, because I know that this is the table in the team plan area. And I'm going to go back to the forwards and go equals average ifs. I'm going to average the position. Doesn't make any sense. And now it says TBL underscore team because that's the new name of my table here. Comma. I want to get the average position, which again doesn't make sense, when the position here is, comma, forward. And I'm going to close that off. And we'll get an error, but we'll say, like we do with a lot of stuff, if there's an error with this, comma, blank. Let's make it blank. Now it's blank. So now, if I were to drag this, I'm just going to drag it. We're going to get a bunch of errors because what's happening is that it's kind of dragging each column along. So we're going power score to power score, which doesn't make sense. We want the position. No matter what we're looking at, no matter what variable we're looking at up here, we want the position to remain the position here. So you'll notice when I go to the next one, now we're looking at group and group as a forward. Well, there's no group name called forward, so it doesn't make sense. A way that we can lock this in is I'm going to do a colon, open bracket, and type in position. And then I'm going to close the bracket twice and go to the front and close it twice. Now what this is telling Excel is when I drag this, I want this to move to the right, but I do not want the position to move. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to drag it along a little bit. And now we see this makes sense. And we're looking at the average overall score for all the people in here when their position is a forward. So we're looking at the forward's average overall score. And what I'm going to do now is, before I drag it all the way across, let's copy this formula and paste it down. It seems to work. And change this to defense. Man, I think. Let's check that. I'm going to open this up. Defense man, yep. And I'll copy that, paste it down, and change this to goalie. Click enter. So now if I take all three of these guys and I drag them all the way across to the end, now we get values for forwards, defensemen, and goalies. And I'm going to change all these values to be a number, which just makes it 2 decimal points for now. And for now, I might just bring it down to 1 decimal. And why is power so thick? I don't know. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I know the dimensions here. It's 1.3, 1.1. I'm going to change that. I might as well just do this now so it stops annoying me. I'm going to select all of them. Go shape format 1.3 and let's make them all 1.1. And now I'm going to change the heights of some things so that I can actually see the cells. First of all, the title needs to be a little bit bigger, so I'm going to make that a row height of 25. And then here until one above, because I want something else to go above the averages. I'm going to right click row height, make that 20. I forgot that I didn't do it with this one. Yikes. That's okay. And this row right above, I'll make 25, just in case I want like a header to go there. And let's check what the dimensions are now. 1.94. I'll just make that the same here for the screen. And now these guys are pretty tall and slender. And I'm just going to move them side by side. Again, it's not exact. I'll play around with it a little bit later and make it look nicer. But I'm going to select all these things. And let's move them up. Because remember, I'm thinking about having some sort of thing, some header here. So what I can do is I can move them down a little bit, maybe. Okay. Now, the next step here, I guess, would be, let's just color all this stuff the same color that the forwards were colored. And we can change these colors whenever we want, but I'm just doing it now so that we have a segregation of things. I think it was that gray. I don't know. And the goalies. And now this is, I think, where the fun stuff kind of begins. Where, yeah, we'll deal with all the digits and stuff like that. But before we do that, I want to have something here that's like kind of cool. I don't know. We can use icons. So insert illustrations. One thing that I like to do is I like to put icons inside circles. So maybe we'll try that for now. So I'm going to insert a circle as a shape. And I don't really know how big it should be, but it should take up about, like it should fit within this category, within this power category, and then the next one should fit in the strength. But let's see, how big is it now? It's 1. Let's try 1.2. Let's see that big, a little bit bigger. 0.2. And I'm going to make this circle I'll make it this color, dark color, just like I have with the scores. And no outline. I don't like outlines around my circles. It's a personal choice. And I'm going to go to insert now, and I'm going to go to an icon. Hopefully you can see this popping up here. So let me think about all the icons we're going to need. I'm just moving it. Power, strength, conditioning, speed, and screening. So what are things that we could pick that are icons that could represent those things? And these could be any images that you want. I'm just going to pick a couple. So I know, all right, there's got to be a lightning bolt in here. That could be power, I guess. Power, strength. I guess a dumbbell might be fine for strength. Dumbbell. Okay. Conditioning. Maybe like a battery or something. One of these. I don't know. It's hard to make decisions on my own. All right, and let's do that. Battery and speed. Oh, that's easy. I can do clock. Maybe it's some sort of timer. Stopwatch. Good. And screening. Something about symmetry or balance. Maybe balance. Yeah, sure. All right, so now what Excel is going to do is it's going to add all these icons. I'm going to color them this light gray color because I want them to contrast the dark circle. And I'm just moving this stuff around. All right. I mean, it looks like the size is okay. What is it, 1? Okay. We'll try that for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these things and convert them to shapes just because. I'll copy, select both of them, copy, and paste. I'm going to move it over to the strength area. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete, undo that, delete the lightning bolt, and what did we have for strength? Now you'll notice when I move this, I can't see it behind the circle. That's because I added this circle after I added the dumbbell. So if I right click on the dumbbell and say bring to front, it does the same thing in PowerPoint. Now, when I move it over, it'll be in front of the circle. And what we can do is we can copy that and paste it. Let me move these icons over. And I'll go over by the conditioning area and I'll make the battery, bring that to the front, delete that dumbbell, bring the battery over here. Yeah, because the battery's kind of big. I'll make it 0.9. Fine, that's a little bit better. And I'll copy again and paste. Put this over the speed area. Delete the battery. Bring the stopwatch to the front. And the last one I'm going to do is copy that, paste it, put it over the screening, delete, and bring the screening thing, the balance beam thing, to the front and make it a little bit smaller. And now at least I have areas where I have cool little icons, and I'm not done, I don't think, making this look a little bit prettier. And what we should do, I'm going to convert all of these to shapes. And now I need to select everything. I should have done this at the beginning. Oh man, I can't. There we go. I'm holding down Control and clicking things. That's exactly what I'm doing right now to try to get all these things picked. And it's not liking that. It's not liking a lot of this, but maybe I'll just do to select all the objects at once. I can go to Find and Select, and then go to Special. So I want to select the objects, and this should select all of them for me. There we go. But it includes these guys too, and I'm going to uncheck these guys. Sorry that took so long, but now I have all the objects selected. Hopefully you learned something from it. And I'm going to go to the data and, oh man, I thought I could group all these together. Maybe not. Fine. That was a big waste of time. So once I have all these selected, I can go to the shape format over here and group them together. So now I don't have to mess around too much. This will be okay for now as I start working through this process. And what I'm thinking here is, let me see, where does this 8? So here, I'm going to do a merge and center thing. I'm actually going to copy exactly what's in here and paste it above. And I'm going to do the same thing for strength, and I'm going to do the same thing for conditioning. I'm just copying and pasting. Copy, paste, copy, paste. Okay. That's pretty good for now. And then I'm going to do the same thing with all these metrics, but I'm probably going to name them differently so that they fit. I'm going to copy all of these and I'm going to paste them right here so that we know. I'm going to undo all the borders because I'll make it look a little bit different. And I'll select all these and I'll put them in the middle, and I'll put them in the middle, and I'll wrap the text. And I'm just going to call this, and also overall and power, str for strength, cond for conditioning, speed, screen, and all CMJ is fine. Broad, peak power, maybe. Pull-ups, that's fine. ISO-LP, VO2. Let's go mean power. That's fine. 2 lap average or average. BF percent is fine. 10M sprint. Or I don't even need the sprints. I'll say 10M, 20M, on ice, 6M, on ice, 15M, Y bal L, Y bal R, Y bal diff. Maybe percent diff. And ISO LP percent. LP percent diff. And maybe we do, like, we can keep this as is, or we can change the formatting, like maybe all these are all the same color. They're all like a little bit of a lighter gray, maybe like that one, and they're white text. Fine, that looks good enough for now. And then up here, we can do the scores up here. Maybe, yeah, I don't like how this is all the way over there. I have an idea. So I'm going to merge and center this, and I'm going to call this table averages by position. I don't know. And I'll bold it, and I'll do this. Maybe I'll copy this and paste the formatting. Not sure why it's. Oh, I meant to merge all this together. Okay, or maybe I go to the left because that's where all the stuff is. And now maybe I'll bring all these guys down a little bit to fill the space. And now what I can do is I can pretty much, like, so let's just select all this stuff, and let's create some borders around it. So I'll do a thick box border, but I don't want it to be black. That's what it'll probably do at the beginning. Yeah, it will. I want it to be something a little bit more subtle. So if I go to line color and I switch it to, I don't know, this gray, and it's gonna like do this little pen thing, but if I just get out of this, go to no borders here, or undo, and if I just select this whole thing again, and I put on the box border again, it should be that gray color. So there it is, and maybe I'll do that here too, and I'll do that here too, and I'll do that for the speed, and for the screen. Yeah. And I'm already having second thoughts about colors. And maybe actually do that here too with all this. So we're gonna have a bunch of thick box borders around stuff to just segregate items from one another. I don't know why I'm doing this, but maybe it looks bad. I don't like the white space. I don't know. All right, I'm gonna undo that for now. But what I will do is I can already tell, like, all right, I'm gonna change this up a little bit. Let's make this a little bit of a darker thing, even darker. Let's go here, and then let's make these black, or the darkest color, kind of like we had. All right, that's better. And now I'm gonna ungroup this stuff. Oh, I know why I grouped this. So I'm gonna format this shape, And we want this to move and size with the cells so that when we collapse them, well, it's already like that, but we want them all to be like that so that if we do collapse the cells, then these will collapse too, and they won't just stay there on the right-hand side. So I'm just going to ungroup this stuff for now, and maybe I can actually select two things at the same time and put them nicely in the area that they need to go. And I'm trying to select stuff, put it in the middle, put it in the middle somewhere, and let's again put it in the middle somewhere. All right, I think that looks better, and I'll move this up. I'll make it all capitals. Say fitness. I'm going to call this fitness testing results team overview, and I don't know, 14. I don't know, make it a little bit bigger. And this is looking better to me for now. And now let's see if I collapse this, see what happens. Everything goes away, and if I expand it, all right, everything looks like it's working. Okay, so let's collapse that again for now. Do I still? Yeah, so I don't need the averages thing on the bottom anymore because we have that covered right up here. And now we get to this area, the left-hand side. We can make this look pretty cool too, I think. So let's start by adding some columns. So I'm going to add 1, 2, at least 3, because I like having little separators. So I'm just going to say B and D are going to be, I just held down Control. So click B, hold down Control, click D, right-click column width. Let's just go like 5 or something. And so let's do that, and let's just have no fill there. And let's actually unmerge this, and I'm going to move it over here and just merge it on top of this stuff. Or maybe I'll merge it. Yeah. What happened here? Oh, yeah, because I added new cells. All right, I'll deal with the top later. And I'll undo that. And I kind of already know what I want here. So I know that I have slicers, which act on the table. I know that I have some stuff, which is unlabeled, that acts on the table, and some stuff that acts on the graph. So if I remember correctly, I think that, well, the date acts on the whole thing. So, oops, I didn't mean to do that. What just happened here? No, so the date acts on the table, and the all in all, which are the camps and the groups, act on the graphs. So I'm going to call this table date. And I'm going to call this, I don't know, graph groups. I don't know, and then hopefully I can see it. Well, let's make that 10. So the other stuff, and let's make that bold and center, 10. So this area is going to be where the graphs groups go. I'll find out quickly if this is groups or not. I'm going to try U18. All right, so it works, because if it said training camp, you'd probably get errors. Yeah, all right, so this is the graph groups. All right, all, and then I'll copy this and paste it here, and this will be the graph camps. And I'll move this cell. Remember, I'm moving these cells. I'm not copying and I'm moving them. So I dragged it over to where it needs to go. I'm going to remove this thing called filters. And I'm going to remove this thing called date. And I'm going to move the date up here. And I'm going to remove all this stuff actually right here. And now we're going to add slicers. This is fun. So I have position player. I'll probably want group 2, because remember that although we're selecting the number of groups that are the groups that are aggregated in the graphs, that doesn't control the table. So if we wanted to look at just the U18 group in this table, we could select U18 here to make the graphs do that, and then we would filter down the table by using a slicer to just the U18 group so that we're just looking at one class of people. That's what makes this kind of dynamic. It's a little bit confusing because we have different things acting on graphs and tables. This isn't normally how I do things, but I thought it would be good educationally, and you can make your own decisions on what you want to do. So I'm going to remove this stuff, and I'm going to click inside the table. And if I go to insert, I can insert something called a slicer right here, and I'm going to do that. I want the player, I want the position, and the group. That's how I want to filter this thing. And when I click OK, now I have these three little things here that where if I click on any of them, the table will filter accordingly. We set this up, the averages, to just be pretty much running off of this table but not consider the filters. You could do this in a way that does consider it. You'd use a formula called subtotal, but we just have it no matter what, because we might want to look at the U18 group, for example, and compare them to these averages. And you can't have it both ways without splitting up everything. So that's what just happened there. When I clicked on U18, now everyone in this table looks like they're U18, but what you'll notice is if you look at the row numbers, see how there's 19, 22, 25 to 28? It's just hiding rows. So if I undo this, now there are no gaps in the row numbers because nothing's being hidden. Let me just open this guy up a little bit more. I know the graphs are changing. I'll deal with those last, I figured out. So now there are lots of different ways that we can organize these slicers. The way that I want to do it is I like custom stuff. So here's one that I actually made custom, but I don't like it. It's not for this. I'm going to design my own, and you can kind of play a role in that also. You'll see how it works. So it looks like I have this dark blue kind of theme and this dark gray theme. I should actually make this the same color as this. I don't even know what color is this. Make that one. It's that one. So then this one should be that color too. I noticed a slight difference. Okay, so I'm going to go to Slicer, and I'll right-click on this format, and I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to call this Team Fitness Slicer. I don't know. Now this does not pertain to this one slicer. It pertains as a format that you can apply to any like one slicer or a million slicers, doesn't matter. So formatting the whole slicer, well, I know that my font is called Bond-Script. So I want it to be in that font, and maybe I want the background of the slicer to be this light type of gray. So I'm going to start there, and you can kind of see a preview of it. The header, I'm going to keep with this dark blue theme type of thing. Go to Format. The fill will be this, I think this was the dark blue that we're using. And my font, again, I'm going to go to the Bond-Script because I'm manipulating the specific header stuff. So maybe the header, and if I have a dark blue background, then the font should probably be white, and we can't see that here, and I'll click OK. And now again, look, so the preview is kind of showing us what to expect here when we apply this formatting. And now we go to a selected item with data. That's what these are right here. These are all selected because they appear in the table and they have data. So what do I want that to look like? I don't want it to be light blue, but I want it to be, I'm going to go to fill, some sort of dark gray. That looks good. And then I'm also going to have to go to the font and make it white. Click OK. Selected item with no data. That's not going to happen. So I'm not going to deal with that. It's a waste of my time. Unselected item with data. I will format that, and I'll make it. So that's pretty much, if I choose to select one person, you'll see what I mean in a minute, then everything else would be unselected, but it has data. In other words, it's hidden in the table. So let's go there, and let's make it, the fill might be like a slightly lighter than the background color, and we'll keep the font black. And hovering, you know, whatever. Hovering is what it is. That's fine. It can be yellow or whatever. And if I click OK, now this appears here. And if I click on it when I have this slicer selected, it's applying that formatting to it. So if I click on this one, and I click on this, and I click on this one, and I click on this, now we have 3 slicers that all look the same, and they're fine, they're cool looking. One thing that I'm noticing now is that the outline of it, I guess it's fine to have that light blue, but I'm nitpicky. So I'm going to right click on the slicer that I made, and I'm going to modify. And when I'm in the whole slicer area, I'm going to go to Format, Border, and I'm going to change the color of the border to just be, again, like a slightly, like a gray color. And then I'm going to apply it to the outline. And I'm going to click OK. And I'll click OK. And now we'll notice that the color changed from blue to dark to this gray color around the border. So that's how that works. Now we have 3 slicers. And the way that we organize these things, just a little bit more slicer education, I guess, is if I select defenseman. See, so these 2 are grayed out. And if I go down here, we see a bunch of people on this list. And if I were to select someone on this list that's grayed out, we're going to get no data. So what I do, because I know my data set, and that's why I didn't deal with this slicer formatting, is that within the slicer itself, so when I'm in the player slicer, I can right click on it, and I can go to slicer settings. And you'll see that one of the options, so the caption is what displays as the header, and this is kind of how it's automatically sorted, and here are some other options. And I like to hide items with no data so that they're not even available for selection. So if I do that and I click OK, now this is just the list of defensemen and there are no forwards lingering around that I could select. And if I click forwards, the list will change. And if I undo this, then all the athletes will be here. So I'm going to apply that to each of these. So I'm going to right click slicer settings, hide items with no data. And I might just actually call this pause because the slicer won't be that big. So see, it's called pause now. And I'm going to right click on this slicer, go to slicer settings, and hide items with no data. And now if I go to slicer up here, and I have a slicer selected, it's not even available if you don't. So if I click on a slicer, go to slicer, you can organize how many columns it has also. So for example, let's say that, let's say I have this slicer over here. I'm like, wow, well, that's like, I wish that I didn't have to make this so long to see all the names. I wish I could condense it a little bit. Well, if I click on this slicer and I go to columns, I can say, all right, well, maybe there are 2 columns or 3 columns. And now I don't even have to scroll if I do 3 columns with this length of the slicer. So that's how slicers work, and I'm going to organize them over in this area to the left. I'll do that in a second, but first I'm going to organize this a little bit better, I guess. So hopefully you can see how this is kind of coming together a little bit. I'm going to just merge all this stuff together, and I'm going to call this table slicers. Table slicers with an S. And let's bring that up. I don't know, 14, fine. Or 12, I don't know. And I'll make that color blue, and I'll make the table date blue. I'll make these red or something, just so we can tell that, all right, these are acting on one thing, these are acting on another thing. And let's make the input be kind of cool too, where let's make these all that gray maybe. So I just selected all 3 of them. Maybe it's this gray color that we have in our slicer. I don't know what it is, but that's close enough. So now we kind of have something that's looking a little bit better. And I'm going to put the players all the way down here by the table. I'm just going to, with this group slicer, I'll make it 2 columns so that it so that it fits, because see what happens here. I don't really know. Defenseman might be 3 columns. No. See, I'm still navigating on how to do this. I guess I could just have the group not even utilize the column feature there, and I'll make this a little bit skinnier. Bring this here. Let's just go to 1. Let's just leave it at 1. Let's see how this works out. And let's do that here. Let's bring this up. Bring this down to just make them nice and look nice. Then we can have this player slicer column, and I think that 3 columns is too many, so I'm going to go to 2 for now so that I can see all the player names, and I'll bring this in to where the other slicer is. And yeah, so now we have our slicers, and maybe I'm okay with scrolling. I don't want the slicer to be too big, so, and I also don't foresee myself using this player slicer very often, only once I get down into a group. So if I go to defenseman, and we already talked about how this slicer will automatically update to accommodate the number of people in a group. Maybe if I make it just big enough to accommodate one group. I mean, U18s and U20s will be bigger, but anyways. So now we have slicers. I think that this looks pretty cool. Let's just reorganize this stuff now that we're done moving things around. Oops. I'll undo that. And I'll move this here, move this here, this here. Fine. Fine, maybe there's a little bit more space in between each of these things. All right, so I think that we're, let me expand this. All right, cool beans. Oh, I don't know why I don't know why I said beans also. All right, so this is a little bit over. We need this. So because this is moving with the cells, I need to make sure that this graph is before the end of that N column so that when I do expand this, it doesn't move. That's why I did that there. And I guess the last thing that we can do is we can kind of go through some of this stuff. All right, one decimal point is fine. And maybe you want to just center all this stuff. BF%, that's fine. I'll show you how to format that a little bit differently. But let's go 2 decimals with the timing stuff. All this stuff is timing. That's important to do 2 decimals with at least. And so these values are going to be percentages and maybe 1 decimal. And this is important to consider, like, practically when you're looking at information, is we're getting averages of asymmetry data that can be negative or positive. And getting averages in that way may not really give you that much insight. I'm doing it now because I don't want to go through the entire segregating out absolute values and identifying left-right dominance. But I wouldn't do it this way. Hopefully you understand that this is just an example. We have average asymmetry values here for those 2 things. For BF%, this is a cool tip if you want it. I think we already did it here actually with the formatting. So if I go to the formatting, more number formats, we did 0.0 and then a percentage sign in quotes. That'll make it, although it's not formatted as a percentage, it'll look like a percentage. So I'm going to select those, go to more number formats, go to custom, and I already created it. 0.0 with a percentage sign in quotes. I'll click enter. Now it looks like a percentage. And we can close this back up. And maybe the last thing that we want to do is, let's say that we just really want to look at these values in here for whatever reason. This is overwhelming. What we can do is we can do exactly what we did here, and I'm going to highlight all these columns, or all these rows, go to data, outline, and group. And now we have a group of these where I can expand and collapse essentially oops, what the heck is going on here? the header portion of it. And since these move in size with cells, then they also get expanded and collapsed when we do that. For some reason, my computer is moving really slow. Oh, that's the only one that doesn't, I guess. Let me format the chart area. I can't tell if my computer's moving really slow or if... Yeah, so we want this to move and size with cells. We want that to be true for all of them. So let me format the chart area here and just check, because I think all the other ones, yeah, all the other ones are good. So if we collapse this now, all those graphs are collapsed, and we still have our slicers here. Unfortunately, you don't want to move your slicers up here, because if you do that and then you unexpand it, they're going to be covering that stuff. So this is the way that I do it, at least, and I'm okay with the I'm okay with the slicers being down a little bit when I do that. And I thought I had one other thing that I wanted to cover briefly, but I can't think of it right now. Yeah, maybe we want to do for the asymmetry stuff. I know we didn't do any conditional formatting, but just quickly, I can show you how to do a, let's say it's a greater than 10%, less than minus 10% difference. And maybe this is great. I don't know why this is so variable. It's just because of my random data set. But this could be plus 25 to minus 25%, just as like a red flag, if you will. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select all these, and I'm going to go to Home and Conditional Formatting, New Rule, and only cells that contain a cell value greater than 0.1. And let's just format this as, I don't know, if it's a red flag, we can do it however we want, but maybe this is like a big red flag, I don't know. So the font color will be white. This is a little bit too pungent for me, but it's okay. It's just an example. And if I click OK, we get a couple values greater than that. And I'm going to do, again, a new rule. Format only cells that contain a cell value that is less than minus 0.1 or minus 10%. I'll format, again, I'll make it red and the font will be white. Click OK and click OK. Now all of our guys that have greater than 10% or less than minus 10% percent difference are colored in that way. And I'll do the same thing here. And it looks like 50%. I'm just going to do 50% because I don't want that too much color to be here. Hopefully you have clinically relevant criteria that you're applying to this formatting that makes sense to you, and you would use it in that way. For me, since this is completely random data, I don't really have that. So I'm going to do a new rule. Format cells that contain a value, let's say greater than 0.5, which is 50%. Let's make the font white and the fill red. Click OK. Click OK. And let's just go another new rule. Format cells that contain a cell value less than minus 0.5 or 50%. Dark red. Font color white. OK. OK. And there we go. The last thing that I want to do here is this row here. I want to make it bigger. I don't know, 20. And I want to wrap the text. Even that's too small. I need it even bigger than that. Let's go 25, or even 30. I don't know. I just need to be able to see the row headers when I'm doing this. Cool. And I'll just put them in the middle. Some of the ones you can't see all the way. Some of them you can. That would be kind of how you'd want to do things organizationally. You could figure that out. And I will select all this stuff. Not everything went to the middle. And I'll just select all these and I'll actually put them in the middle of the column. Okay, so we're going to do a drop-down menu for the date first. And I like to do that. So we go to data validation to do that. We create a list of our dates, and we get the list of our dates from here. So this is where we have an automatically updating list of dates. And I like to write my formula outside or before going into the data validation. Similar to conditional formatting, Excel doesn't really help you when you're inside the data validation. So it's good to make sure that it works outside of it first. And let's remember now that this is an old school way of doing things. Just like this formula is very old school and we have a lot of blanks that have formulas in them, this is going to be an old school way of doing data validation. Like there are things now where you can get a unique list of sorted dates using very functional formulas, whereas before, not only can you not sort these dates, you'd have to sort it from your main table, but you need a longer formula and stuff to get it done. So keep in mind that what I'm proposing might not be the most efficient solution for you, depending on the Excel version that you have. So in any case, let's start this formula. I'll go equals offset this date, and I'll lock it in, comma. I don't care about the number of rows you see here, comma, or columns, comma, but I want there to be a dynamic height to this list that I return. And that is based on how many entries there are with text. And the way Excel knows that this isn't a text field, it knows that it's kind of a date field, so you need to use greater than 0, essentially. And this has changed recently. So, at least for my observations, I don't know, I've just played around a lot. What used to work doesn't work anymore. So, again, it might not work for yours if you have an older version, but we'll see. So, I want to offset, and I want to count if, to get my height, I want to count if whatever, however many things in this list there are that are, comma, greater than 0, and end that quote. And then, I don't remember if I have to -1, and click enter. Well, it looks like it's pulling 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It looks like it's pulling everything that I need. And what we're going to quickly see, well, I'll show you what will happen if I do it just like this, but we'll see that there's more to this. So when I go to my team plan, I can go to the data validation, which is in the data area. I want a list, and if I paste this formula in as it is and click OK, wonder what the issue is. Oh, see, it already knows that. Oh, no, so never mind. It won't. Excel has become smart in that it understands the data types. So pretty much that wouldn't work anyways because we'd be looking at this column here when we actually need to look at the column from the reference sheet. So the way that you do that is before the cells that you reference is you type in the name of your sheet with an exclamation point. So I would type in reference, exclamation point, and that means that I'm looking at the data in the reference sheet. Now, if your sheet name has more than one word, like play or plan, there's a different nomenclature to that, but that's beyond this for right now. So I'm going to say reference E to E. And I believe that I need to do a -1 here in case it counts the date list, but I don't know. So I'll leave it as is for now. And notice there's no change to how this works. I'm just referencing where this data already is. But when I transfer it to another sheet, so I just copied that. If I go to my team plan, go back here and go to my data validation, I need a list, and I paste it. Now it knows that I'm looking at the reference sheet for that information. And if I click OK, now I have a list of dates. And if I click on a different date, the data will change. And if I click on another different date, the data will change and all that fun stuff. So now we have a dynamic drop-down list for dates. And the other formulae for the groups and the camps will be very similar in formula, but also a little bit different because of the update that Excel did to understand data types. So I'm going to copy this formula and I'm going to paste it right here. But now instead of looking at the date list, we want to look at the event list. So instead of E, which you can't see here, I think it's Hij, so we'd be looking at I2, and we want to count if I to I, or anything in this list, is greater than 0, but that won't work anymore because Excel knows that this is text, not a date or a number. So I'm thinking right now the best way to do it is to maybe do a question mark asterisk. And what that means, these are symbols in Excel, that means it's looking for a text value, and the asterisk is a wildcard. It's looking for some form of text value, and anything can come after it. So if I click enter, all right, I get another list of stuff. So what I'm going to want to do with this one is I'm going to do a -1 to get rid of that blank value here. So -1. And you're not going to, probably if you're on an older Excel version, you won't see this happen. This is a newer thing. So I'm going to copy this formula, go into my team plan, go to my graph group camps, because that's the one that I did, and I'll go to data validation, list, paste in my formula, click OK, and now I should have my list. And if I click training camp, again, my graphs should change, in season should change, and all should change. Remember, these lists are anything that you want them to be. These are just examples. And what I'll do now is I'll just copy that formula and paste it and apply it to the group list, which is K. So instead of I2, we want K2. Instead of I to I, we want K to K. Click enter, and it looks like it works fine. And I'll copy this and go to my team plan. And for this drop down, I'll go to my data validation, list, paste that formula in there, click OK. And now here's my U18 and U20 and all list. And if for whatever reason we were to add another thing to the reference, which is actually dictated by our data. So I'm going to go into my data set and I'm going to add some new stuff, and we're going to see what happens. I'll go to my data. We have this list of stuff, and I'm just going to add, I don't know, I'm going to add Zelda again. Oops, what the heck? I'm not sure what my Excel is being weird. Zelda, oh, it did add something. It's just being slow. So I got Zelda here, and let's say 5/1/2020, and let's call this Super Camp. And what else do we need to fill out? Oh, well, we don't have another group, like if we were to add another player to our profile. So let's do this. 5/1/2020 Super Camp, and I'm going to add a new player to my profile too. Let's go 007, I think James Bond, and oh, well, that didn't work well. Johnny Boy, he's a male, doesn't matter about that, and his position doesn't matter, and he's in the U50 group. And let's add Johnny in here. Johnny Boy. And let's put him in as part of this Super Camp. So now we have a Super Camp and we have a U50 group based on the data that we're collecting, which is from our profiles in our data set. And we also have a new date, 5/1/2020. So if I go to my reference, 5/1/2020 is in my list, Super Camp is in my camps, and U50 is in my group list. And these can be anything. And if I go to my team plan now, U50 is in this list. If I select it, it's probably going to break everything because there's no data for it. Yeah, and for my graph camps, Super Camp is there. Again, it'll just break everything or give whatever. I don't know how that's happening. And then for the dates, we'll have 5/1/2020. And that is it. I'm going to go remove that data now because we don't want it. So let's delete those rows. And let's go to my profile and delete Johnny Boy. And I'm just going to go back to my team plan now and check and make sure 5/1/2020 is not there. The U50 group is not there, and Super Camp is not there. So this is the team portion. We're done. I'm done with this. So hopefully this has been helpful. And yeah, I'll go through the player stuff too. Probably a lot more brief than this. It'll be a lot more brief than this section. And we'll just tie some things together. Maybe add a button to bring us back and forth. I don't know. All right. Good job, guys.